Welcome to Shaping Stories, a glass artist podcast. Here we sit down with hot glass artists from around the world to explore their creative paths, what inspires them, and the real moments that shape their work. Thank you for being here. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, so my name is Destiny Miller. I am a glassblower and flameworker from Ontario, Canada. I got started in glass, I guess, in 2020, but I'm sure you can see where this is going. COVID kind of put a very quick halt on that as soon as I started my studies. So I'm very glad to be back into it more, not full time, but getting there. So happy to be here today.
And can you skip the glass part of your life for a minute? Can you tell us about where you grew up?
I grew up in Owen Sound, Ontario.
And what do you do for fun that's not glass?
Well, like I said, I do have a husky and my stepdad has two others, so they keep me quite busy. I do like to go on hikes, but I take them on trails and go for runs with them. And I do a lot of arts and crafts outside of class as well. So I'm usually picking up several hobbies at once. And
So you started glass during 2020, right? Was it right before COVID? Was it the beginning of the
yeah,
year? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
yeah. So I applied for Fleming College's glassblowing program. So it started in January of 2020, and I made it through about the beginning of March before everything completely shut down. So I got out there with no previous knowledge or experience with glass. And obviously, I just fell in love with it immediately. Um, I was lucky enough to go to Corning Museum of Glass because at that time the program was still hosting a field trip. So it was actually on our way back from our adventure in Corning. We were on the bus back to Ontario when we got the news that they were shutting the borders down and that everything was up in the air and we didn't know if we were going to be able to continue our studies or not. And unfortunately we didn't, but I came back home and set up a home studio for flameworking. That kind of kept me in it enough to be here today.
And you went to school to focus on glass without really having done it before?
Yes, I had been out of high school for a little bit. I graduated. I tried different artistic endeavors, but nothing really stuck and held my focus. I just kind of stumbled upon it, a happy accident. And ever since then, I started following people on Instagram and seeing what they were doing. And that got me really intrigued. So then when I first stepped into the studio, I didn't really know anything, but I just knew that that's what I wanted to do.
The school you were going to, was it in the hot shop or was there flame working elements to that too?
The way that Fleming structures their program, it's all in the winter. So it's basically each week is a different course. We do introduction to solids and then it moves up to blown and then color, so on and so forth. So there was one week that was flame working. Since then it's been a little bit changed and now we do fusing instead. It got me introduced to a lot of different elements of glass, which was nice because they do a little bit of casting as well.
And during COVID, you just kind of locked yourself in your home and set up your own flame working studio?
The people at Mountain Glass were great. I ordered from them. It took a little bit of time because COVID was in the works, but I finally got my kiln and my torch and everything set up. And yeah, my stepdad was great enough to allow me to put his house at risk, so to say. But no, it's been great. And then I've developed relationships within my hometown with like the fire department and Lind Air for the gas supply. So it's amazing.
Did you know what you were doing, or did you kind of like figure it out as you go? And what kind of resources did you find along the way for that?
It's definitely been a trial and error struggle through for several years on my own. When I first left school, I was like 20 at the time, but I didn't feel like I had that kind of connection because I wasn't able to spend the time and develop it with my instructors. So I didn't reach out to anybody. I felt like I was kind of on my own, especially in my area. There isn't anybody else that does glass outside of pretty much stained glass artwork. So I didn't feel like I had any answers to the questions. Even when I was trying to Google or YouTube, it was harder to learn than if you have a network of people. But since I've gone back to school, it's been very helpful, and I've since reached out to multiple instructors, and they've been gracious enough to welcome me into their home and their home studios. So
What kind of stuff did you start making when you were kind of almost self-teaching at home?
a lot of jewelry, I would say, is what I started out with, and small trinkets. I got in this headspace of thinking that I needed to try to make things to sell. I've since been trying to push back from that because that burns you out. And also, you need to be true to yourself. The people that appreciate your artwork will come faster. Yeah, I've been moving a little bit away from that, but definitely at the beginning, just trying to make earrings and little mushrooms, but they all were blogs at first. I was kind of learning techniques on the go.
So now you're back in school, and what do you think you're going to take from school? What elements do you see pursuing within your glass career?
Definitely like the conceptual sculptures, but I'm big on functional work as well. I kind of want to combine as much of that as possible. I would say the biggest thing that I have taken from school is that I've learned how to do larger installation works, have a voice behind my work, whereas before it was kind of showing up and starting to blow a vessel and kind of seeing where the glass would take me. I've learned to be a little bit more intentional behind that. So I definitely want to move towards more conceptual sculptures that are also functional. I like things that have function, but also if people are going to spend money on something, they need to justify it in a way. That's my business idea behind it, I guess.
And do you still work on the torch a lot? And are you working borosilicate on the torch, or do you work other COEs on the torch?
I do still work on the torch. It is mostly borosilicate. However, I'm trying to learn more soft glass so that I can implement it into the hot shop. But soft glass is quite a learning curve, and it's frustrating to say the least. So I kind of shoot myself in the foot a little bit because I always go back to boro, which everybody says is glass with training wheels, but I love it personally, and I think it has a great world for function. I'm not so much in the pipe making scene, but I appreciate the art behind it. Soft glass is something that I'm striving for, but not quite there yet in terms of on the torch.
Could you tell us about what your studio setup is like at home, like what kind of torch you have and stuff? And also, just for us that like to know about studios, can you tell us about the studio at school?
Yeah. Okay. So my studio is relatively small. It luckily does have a window and a door. So I do have some air intake coming in and out, fresh air, but I just work off of like a knee-high oxygen tank and my propane. And I run a GTT Bobcat. So it's really good for pushing boro. It's got like a really strong flame, but I've noticed that soft glass, it's a little bit harder because it's so much bushier. Maybe I'm just not great with my flame chemistry yet either. However, it does me well. I was actually working outside as well on the GTT. My school, Fleming, we run more tall miners, which are great, especially if you're working small scale. I just prefer my Bobcat.
At school, they have miners and they also have a furnace, and they're also doing like fusing and slumping and that kind of stuff too. So a little bit of everything.
The whole program is based around glass blowing. So we do have a rather large pot. We have like four annealers. I'm also the studio technician. So yes, we have a big standing pot. We did have two, but unfortunately the one is not running at this time. So we have four benches with our holes. Usually we can run up to 12, but typically a class runs smoothly with around 8 students. And then they do run casting, like sand casting, which was really fun. I got to make some little bugs and crustaceans and whatnot. They were doing flame working for the longest time. That got put on hold, so they switched to fusing, but they are looking at getting the flame working back up and running. So I'm not sure what the future holds, but I just know that whatever they structure the program around is going to be fun. And I'm just glad that people have the access to the glass knowledge.
Congrats on the shop tech job. That's a great resume.
Thanks, yeah. It's definitely a learning curve, but it's really fun and it's cool to see how everything operates behind the scenes instead of just being the one making the pieces all the time. You kind of get to see all the extra labor that goes into it.
Do you get a lot of studio time outside of class? How does that work?
While I was in program itself, you do get an amazing amount of studio time. I would probably say for the amount of money that you're paying, it's probably the most open studio time that you can get in a program, at least in Canada that I'm aware of. They run from 9 a.m. until 5, well, around 4:30 on Mondays and Fridays. But throughout the rest of the week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, there's class time until 4:30, but they have open studio until 9 p.m. So you can work on whatever you want to make, and there's access to the cold shop as well. So students are very privileged with what we get to have.
You said that you found a lot of community with your teachers and stuff, how they've helped you. Have you found a good community within the school, like making friends? Is everybody like really supportive of each other, or do you feel like it's an environment of like competition or anything like that?
I mean, obviously, there's always some friendly competition within like your own group of people, but no, everybody is more than willing to share their tips and tricks. And even within the other studios, like ceramics and glass, like we mix a little bit, like we'll come and say hi, and same with jewelry when they're running. Like everybody just loves to see what the other studios are producing. Fleming, since it's such a small college, I probably haven't seen more than 60 students in the building at one time. It is so intimate and there's always something going on. So it gives you a lot of time to make friends and also appreciate the beauty of the place because there's a sculpture forest. So sometimes classes go out for walks and you kind of pass by and see what everybody's doing. It's amazing. I love it out there.
And like when you're not in school, do you have access to the studio space, or are there other hot shops around that you'd be able to have access to continue your work when you're done at school?
Currently, I'm not like a member of any studios. I live too far away, unfortunately. I have rented time at the Ottawa Glassblowing Co-op, but it is pretty far from me. It was quite a vacation to go out there and do that. I'm teaching some local classes just for flame working and fusing, but when I have the money for it, I'm hoping to get my own little baby dragon and then teach classes more locally. For right now, that's just a pipe dream, I guess.
How do you organize what you're going to be working on? Like, do you have certain projects that you're working on through school, or when you wake up in the morning, how do you schedule out your day?
Lately, I've been very bad at just letting life take over, but I have a notebook full of concepts and just ideas that I want to make. I've started some, but I'm notoriously bad for having a pile of like works in progress just sitting on the side. So eventually they will come to life, but my routine basically is I will wake up and I'll prep my studio, prep my benches, bring my tanks inside and set them up and whatnot. And then I used to never sketch. So I would just sit down at the torch and make things and lose oxygen and be frustrated. So now I plan it out and I have my sketches beside me. So usually it just starts with my ideas and then I'll sit down and just get to work when I have the motivation, which is bad because motivation is the killer. You just got to do it even on your bad days. And that's what I'm trying to get to.
Are you focusing on selling any of your work at all right now, or are you just making work to make art?
I am focused on selling, and that's, I think, my biggest problem is I want to more so make the bigger ideas that take longer time and not necessarily are going to sell fast. So that's what I want to work on, but I've been stocking shops. I've been working on building back my website because it's been down for quite a while. So I'm getting stock ready for that. And then also with the running of my business in Owen Sound lately, I've been doing more markets and events. So I have to have product for my table. So small little necklaces, trinkets, and whatnot. I don't mind it, but it definitely production is not my favorite. I like to be more artistic with it, but sometimes you have to blend the two together and find a happy medium.
Feels on that. So how do you so one of my biggest problems, and I always like to ask people about this, is I suck at switching gears. So I can like make glass and I can like talk to people and I can do my website and I can do my social media, but I can't do all those things in one day. And like I cannot do more than one or two things without burning myself out. Do you find that you can seamlessly switch between all those roles? Because everything you listed, like being a website builder, we know what that takes. But photographing your work, bringing your stuff to shops and selling retail, and then selling to customers directly, like those are all different skill sets, all combined together into one human. How do you feel about that? And how do you manage that?
Truthfully, I hate wearing all the hats. I just want to make the art. I don't want to worry about selling it, but unfortunately, that's just the road that we have to go as an artist. But no, I definitely struggle with switching gears. If I'm lucky, I will sit there and I will make a bunch of stuff on the torch in one day. And then maybe by the weekend, I will have some footage edited and ready to go. But it takes me longer than I'd like to admit to get anything posted. I'm still going through content of things that I probably made a couple years ago that I never posted because one, I get so much content that it gets hard to cut it down. Like it gets overwhelming, and then I start to doubt myself. So I'm like, well, after looking at this for 10 minutes, I don't really like it anymore. So I don't want to post it for other people to not like. So it just sits in the camera roll until I revisit it and I'm like, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But now my skills have progressed, so it feels like it's worse. I should have posted it at the time. Yeah. It's one of those imposter syndromes, which I know is coming up. So
Yeah, the imposter syndrome question is there. How do you manage that within yourself and put yourself out there on social media? Because that's something we all struggle with.
mhm. I think some days are better than others, and I'm able to just kind of get out of my head a little bit and realize we're all in this together. We're all learning. We all want to see not even just the success, but the failures. Like it's helpful to see other people be vulnerable in a sense, because that is the reality. Glass is hard. It takes a long time to even be good at it, let alone master it. So I think being more gracious with myself in the fact that I'm learning is something that I really need to work on.
We all need to work on that. Do you find that the internet community is kind to you, or do you find that you get trolls? And are those trolls internet people within the glass community or just like random, dumb, ignorant trolls?
Online, I haven't had too many bad interactions, mostly because I'm scared to interact on like the Facebook groups because I see the chaos that ensues. So I think that kind of prohibits me a little bit, which I hate because I want to be more involved. But on Instagram, I think everybody that I've came across has been super, super friendly and more than willing to like help me learn along the way. But it just took me getting out of my own head and being able to like talk to these people for that to actually happen, right? Like engaging with other artists.
I guess I'm making an assumption that you identify as a woman, but as a woman, do you feel like your experience with that is different than that of a man? Do you think that that might be part of what's holding you back from engaging in those Facebook groups, or do you just think that it doesn't have anything to do with that?
Yes, as a woman in the glass scene, I feel like I do navigate it a little bit more cautiously than a man would. The glass community is large and it is largely taken up by men, which isn't a problem, but more women are finding their way to glass, which I love. There are some people in the community, gender doesn't matter, but like, you know, they're a little bit hard to work with. You're gonna find that in every industry, I'm sure. With glass, it can be a little bit of the macho, bravado kind of personalities that you come across, which luckily I haven't experienced too much
And I know it's hard to talk about because you don't want to be offensive, but also I think we have to talk about it. And so I feel the same way where I'm like, I don't know how to ask these questions even, but I know we all need to broach the subject somehow.
Well, I've definitely had some experience as the technician where, as the younger female, there's been some pushback from, male counterparts that think that they have more knowledge and more experience than I do, and that I'm just unfairly targeting them, which, I'm just doing my job to keep everybody in the studio safe. You just got to be, I guess, as politically correct in those situations as possible. But definitely, I feel being a woman kind of shifts your perspective in a way. I feel like women should have a space dedicated to them and their art, and sometimes we aren't given that in the community. So just carving out a positive trial.
So you're in a leadership role and you have responsibility and or liability. So sometimes you have responsibility over your peers in the studio. So that must make some uncomfortable situations, especially when sometimes men aren't comfortable like following the lead or they're looking down on you when you're just trying to do your job. So
Yeah, it can get a little bit messy when you're like trying to be friends with people because you're around the same age and you're in the same industry and everything's okay until you've got to put your foot down. And then sometimes, honestly, I've had it with women too, but I have had the most negative pushbacks and the most negative comments that were like gender related coming from men. So I think that contributes to the stigma behind why people, women, don't want to, put themselves out there in the community, which it shouldn't be like that.
totally heard. So, do you always feel like you're bursting with inspiration, or do you sometimes find that you don't even know what you want to make, or you can't see a way forward? Like, how do you get out of inspirational slumps, per se?
I often find that I'm going back to old ideas. Sometimes I'm really struggling with inspiration, so I'll just revisit something that I've done in the past, and that'll help a little bit. But honestly, sometimes I just hit a wall and I have to take a few days, go on some adventures, read some books, and kind of recenter myself because, yeah, it's the creativity doesn't just flow. I think in a perfect world where we didn't have to worry about all the outside nonsense, I think I would have more time and more imagination, but no, unfortunately, I have to take like days at a time to bring an idea to life before I can even consider thinking about another one.
And then you kind of just like jot it down in your notebook and draw it out for yourself. That's your typical process.
Yeah, so my brain works faster than I can. So I'll think of like a million and one ideas and I'll try and get them all on the paper before they're gone. But then it's like you got to pick which one's your favorite to work on because it's going to take days, if not weeks, of your time to get to. Because unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to work on the torch these days. I'm not at my stepdad's very often, and between work and then dealing with my dog and other things in life, I don't get to really do the production mode. So when I'm here, I try to appreciate it and like get out what I can, but I don't take it as seriously as I once did. I'm excited to get back in the studio full time when it presents itself.
The school that you're going to, are you taking other classes outside of glass, or is it mostly like up moving, hands-on kind of classes?
So I graduated from Fleming and right now I'm just the technician, but I do have plans to go to Alberta University of the Arts where I will be doing a whole mix of things because it'll be the first year of my BFA. So not only will I do glass once a week, I'll also start doing ceramics and animation, which will kind of put a whole different perspective into like the arts world. But I'm excited for ceramics because then I know that I can mesh the two worlds of glass together. But Yeah, it'll be different. Oh, and jewelry as well. So jewelry making is something that I'm definitely looking forward to. Maybe get some glass gemstones set, but we'll see.
Do you feel like you're getting business skills within your learning, or are those skills innate skills that you already had within yourself that you're able to apply to your artwork? Like
I
your
think so.
website, how did you learn to make a website? Like, are these just things because your age and like your world experience, or are people like learning that kind of stuff within the program?
They touch on a bit of marketing in the program for sure. They definitely help with making a bio and an artist statement. But when it comes to actually developing my website and my store shop, it was kind of just again trial and error, doing things by myself, like looking it up. Yeah, I think glass is one of those tricky mediums where I struggle with pricing it because there's such a wide range of people selling things at different levels. And because I'm trying to be, blown glass, flame worked, how do I price a cup for $50 and then try to price a pendant that I worked on for hours at the same price? People don't understand. And also, if they can go to the dollar store and buy it for a couple dollars, it's really hard to sell your work. You're more so selling yourself. And the school does help kind of prepare you to sell yourself more so than anything.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. You're selling yourself and your art. It's a lot of pressure.
You got to put yourself out there, which I hate to do. So that's why things are stagnant at the moment. But yeah.
We kind of went through most of my questions. I don't know if you had any other topics that you wanted to talk about, or if you had like final thoughts and words of wisdom that you can share with everyone.
For my words of wisdom, I would say that you just need to trust in yourself, trust in your process, don't take it too seriously. And once you start posting things that make you happy and feel good, your people will find you. And just trust within the community. Honestly, reach out. People aren't that scary. People are more than willing to help you learn and grow your skills if you're just willing to accept the knowledge from them, honestly.
Good one. And where can people find you to support your work?
Right now, all of my work can be found on Instagram at Siren Glass Studios. And I am also teaching classes in Owen Sound. So keep an eye out for those. If anybody's local and wants to learn how to make glass, I'm available.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great talking with you.
Yay.
Thank you so much for listening to Shaping Stories. If you like our podcast, please make sure to follow on whatever platform you're listening on. We are always grateful for your reviews to help other artists find us. You can find us on Shaping Stories Pod on Facebook and Instagram. And please make sure to support this artist that we interviewed today. It's a lot of guts to come on here, and we appreciate them being vulnerable and sharing, and especially for their very valuable time. If you know somebody that might like to be interviewed, or you might like to be interviewed yourself, I would love that. Please send an email over to me to dom@terrapinglass.com. I really look forward to seeing you, and I can't wait to continue with this project.